Hello and a very warm welcome to this week's Scene on 7. I'm Steve Brennan. I hope you're fit and well and happy. Somehow, like the rest of the nation, I suspect that the amazing judgment on Torvill and Dean's performance has ruined your week. But more about that later. But for now, brighten up your life, blow away the cobwebs and cast away the cares of the day for the next hour or so. Here's this week's stunning selection from Scene on 7. No, it's not a computer game, it's motorcycle safety from West Drayton with Steve Hyland. Homeless, seek shelter. I'll be talking to Catherine Zoe Child to find out more about the legislation. Our senior producer gets to grips, or rather someone gets to grips, with him. It's massage this week on Complementary Health. Is it the news or is it not the news? It's not the news from WMtv and Alistair Corrie. And they're queuing up at the betting shop. They could lose their shirts. It's Tony O'Rourke at Windsor, horse racing. Thank you. My very special guest this week is one of the stars of Surgical Spirit, the hit show from Humphrey Barclay production. He is Beresford Leroy, and he's here later live. Don't forget, Andre Maradian will be here with a roundup of the sport in the region also a little bit later on in the programme. Now, the subject of road safety has cropped up on the show before and will no doubt do so again. However, motorcycle safety is not a subject we've covered until now. We've searched through our list of presenters for an ageing biker to report on this, but still to no avail. So the Silver Fox has stepped in. Here's Steve Hyland.
You probably don't realise it, but since December of 1990, it's been mandatory for all learner motorcyclists to take a CBT, which is compulsory basic training. We're at Street Sense today in West Drayton, and we're going to find out exactly what goes on at one of their training courses. With me is Street Sense's chief instructor, it's Ian Muir. Ian, tell me, exactly what does the course cover here?
The CBT that you see today basically is to teach people basic control and to teach them some basic road sense so that when they go out on the roads they're not going out cold or have no idea at all. At least hopefully we'll instill in them the basics of road safety so that they're aware of other road users and can control the machines before they're actually let loose out on public roads.
Now, a lot of people don't realise that this is actually now compulsory, isn't it?
Yeah, since December 1990, the government changed the law, and now any new riders have to do this course before they're allowed out on the roads with their L plates on. So they have to come to a training body like ourselves who are approved by the government to do their training.
Now, I think it's very important to make absolutely clear that when they come here, they're not being taught trick riding, they're not being taught to stand on their heads, they're being taught basic motorcycle skills and basic road skills as well, aren't they?
It's the whole emphasis of the course is on safety, on them being safe with the control of the machine and then safe out on the roads.
Now, how long does the course take?
On average, it takes a day, although it's an open-ended thing. Some people obviously will learn quicker than others. Some people come back 3 or 4 days. It makes no difference. It's a one fee thing, whether it takes a day or a week. It makes no odds.
And what do the riders go away with at the end of the day?
At the end, they receive a CBT certificate, which, along with their provisional licence, it validates their provisional licence. It's a proper legal document that they, if they get stopped by the police or when they go to their insurance companies, they should show them the CBT certificate.
Now, the thing is as well, it's a multi-stage thing as well, isn't it? For instance, if you're a driver of a motor car and you actually want to take up motorcycling, that actually goes some way towards that particular certificate, doesn't
it? The CBT course actually counts as part 1 of your motorcycle test. Right. So if you want to gain a full licence, you can come down, take extra training with us, and then take your test.
Now, on a typical day when somebody comes down here, they'll be out here in the freezing cold, or if they're lucky it'll be a sunny day, but they'll be out here doing their basic motorcycle skills. You don't obviously teach them out here the road skills. I mean, is there a classroom as well?
Yeah, we've got a nice big classroom there which we go in and warm up and have a cup of tea, obviously. But the idea is they practice all their manoeuvres and to get them into the habit of doing their observations and signalling in correct times in here. Then we'll actually take them out on the road using a radio link and continue their training out on the road. But we'll only take them on the road when we feel they can control the bike and they have a a reasonable grasp of what they should be doing.
Now, we think that a lot of people think that the motorcycle is very much a male domain, but that isn't the case at all here. There are actually some young ladies here that are cycling as well today, aren't there?
Yes, we've got a couple of ladies here. We've actually got a couple of lady instructors on our books. I'd probably say about 20% of our, sometimes more in the summer. Last year we had lots of ladies coming through. We had a couple this morning on bigger bikes paying us a visit just to show off their new pride and joys.
Very good. And how regular are the courses?
Well, we run them 7 days a week, so it's really a case of when people want to come down and do it. Obviously, this sort of weather puts people off, but in the summer it's very, very busy.
All right, well, Ian, thank you very much indeed. Nice talking to you. So there you are, the Street Sense course. They operate all the year through. It's a CBT. It is compulsory if you are taking your licence. And if you want to get more details on the course or get your booking in, it costs £50. And the number is 081 907 7655. That's 081 907 7655. From a very, very chilly cycling course in the middle of West Drayton, Steve, it's back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Steve. If you have an interest in motorcycles and would like more information on motorcycle safety, then please telephone, as Steve said, 081 906 7655, or the mobile number is 0850 364 693, and those numbers will be on the moving magazine a little later. And some excellent camera work there. Congratulations to Neil Morris, and also to our senior producer, Ian Hunt, who did the graphics on that film, and that is only his first appearance in this week's programme. Stay tuned, you'll find out more. The freezing weather has brought the plight of the homeless back into focus. There are a number of points of view regarding proposed changes in policy about their unfortunate situation. Before we hear the opposing sides of the comments, I have Catherine Zoe Child from Shelter here to balance it all out. Hi, Catherine. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
Nice to see you. We've seen you in your office, and we've seen you on screen, but now you're here in the flesh. Right. What is the proposed legislation that we're going to hear about in this film?
The government's proposing that the present homeless legislation be repealed, and that we would go back to basically the 1948 National Assistance Act. At the moment, we have in place the 1977 Act, which was amended in 1985. And this basically gives people a route into social housing.
And so it's a retrograde step, really. It's going back 30 years. How will that affect the homeless if it comes into law?
If this comes into law, at the moment what will happen is, if people are homeless or threatened with homelessness, they can approach their council, and if the council decides that they have not made themselves what they call intentionally homeless, then they will be allocated a council house. While they're being investigated, they are put up in temporary accommodation. What will happen now is that homeless people will have to prove that they are actually homeless. So that it won't be enough to say that I'm fleeing domestic violence, I need to leave. You will actually have to leave and prove that you're homeless. So we may get the situation of families on the street proving to a homeless person's officer that they have nowhere else to stay, because it won't be enough to be in a women's refuge, in a hostel, or staying with friends or family to show that you're homeless, because you have a roof over your head.
Right. So, as I said in the preamble there, I mean, it's brought into focus very much so at the moment with all the cold weather we're having. What is the current situation regarding homelessness? Is it mainly families or mainly single people?
We are getting an awful lot of families. It's balanced. I should say it's 50-50. Given the state of repossessions, we have a lot of people who never thought they'd become homeless. They thought that they had a job and a house. If they were made redundant and couldn't keep up their mortgages, then they were made homeless by losing their house. And at least if the council considered that they hadn't made themselves homeless, then they would have a chance to get secure housing.
Approximately how many homeless people are there in total at the moment in the local area? Just approximate figure.
Over the last year, we saw about 1,500 from just this area, from Slough, Windsor and Maidenhead. Now, they wouldn't all have been homeless. They might have had problems with housing, but certainly a fair proportion of them were either homeless or threatened with it.
Is that the number of people that you've just mentioned, 1,000 people? Is that the number that are registered homeless, or is that people that you just know about that are homeless that still don't have access to this housing?
That is the number of people who've got housing problems, because when people present as homeless to the local authority, they may not be entitled to housing. They may not be what's called priority need. If their children are over 16, for example, they wouldn't be considered priority.
And all of this relates in what way at the moment to private rented housing and to housing benefit?
What's proposed is that if you convince the local authority that you are homeless, you have nowhere to stay that night, they will put you up in temporary accommodation for a limited period, and then they will redirect you into the private rented sector. And given that local surveys show that 20% of that is appalling, it's not fit for humans to live in, we are probably condemning those people to a life of unemployment because they won't be able to get into a job paying enough to pay their rent. We're condemning them to maybe moving every 6 months. There'll be a revolving door situation with repercussions on their children's health, maybe their own relationship as well.
So there are at the moment, to be fair, the Labour point of view, the political point of view, which are both opposing, and the shelter point of view. We put together a film about this. Let's have a look and see what it says.
We're looking today at a consultation paper issued by the Department of the Environment, which proposes substantial changes to the way in which homeless people will be treated.
It's aimed primarily, as far as I can see, at bringing a little bit more equity into the obtaining of local authority housing. The trouble with the homelessness legislation that exists at the moment is that it's possible for people, albeit in need, but to, as it were, jump the queue over people who are on local authority housing waiting lists, but never get housed because their needs are always being surpassed by people who find themselves in a homeless situation. So for some time I have felt that something needed to be done, and I believe that from what I've seen of the document so far, I haven't read all the dots and crossed all the T's, but in general, the general thrust of the document seems to address the equity side of it very well.
Well, it will change the way we deal with homelessness significantly. At the moment, if we assess somebody as homeless and needing accommodation, and if they're not homeless because of something they've done themselves, in other words, they're intentionally homeless, at the moment, after they have been in temporary accommodation, we house them permanently. Under the changed legislation, we would place them in the private rented sector. This means that they're likely, after a period, to reapply, and there will be a group of people reapplying continuously in Slough, increasing our workload significantly, as well as, of course, putting pressure on them. I'm sure that it will be very stressful for families, very unsettling for families. What people need is a permanent solution. They need a home. Of course, for the council and council taxpayers, it will increase our costs. It will increase the amount we have to pay out to housing benefit to people in the private rented sector. And of course, the staffing of more advice to people, rent deposits to get people into the private rented sector, will all be additional costs.
Shelter is the national charity that campaigns on behalf of homeless and badly housed people. Here we actually offer advice and advocacy to people who have got housing problems.
Mm-hmm. And what is your reaction as an organisation to this paper that we've been discussing?
It's hard to know where to begin. We're horrified by it. It basically repeals the homelessness legislation that was brought in 1977 and goes back to the National Assistance Act of 1947, which actually means that local authorities only have to offer temporary accommodation. It seems to be brought in on the back of people getting access to social housing in an unfair way. And I'd really like to, first of all, explode that myth. The Department of Environment's own research says that 75% of homeless households housed are actually on the waiting list already.
Mm-hmm. As we have heard, different people are reacting differently to the proposed changes. Those who deal most closely with the homeless have the greatest concerns.
There's the opposing points of view, Catherine. I think very fairly put. Would you agree with that?
I would, but I'd like to make the point that there's no queue jumping. The same
Right.
people who are on the waiting list actually become homeless, and this is government figures. 75% of homeless people were already on the waiting list, and we want to see supply increased, more houses or more houses made available.
And on that subject, should anyone be imminently in need of any of your services, for whatever reason, what should they do about it?
If you have a housing or housing-related problem, no matter how serious, please contact us on 0753 691 844, and we will try our best to help you, whatever the situation.
Is there an answer phone on that, 24 hours a day?
Yes, we have a 24-hour answer phone, and there's an advisor there from 9 in the morning till 5 at night. If you call after those hours and we're there, we'll pick up the phone if you have an emergency.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming in, Catherine,
right.
and I hope it's successful. Let's
Thank
hope
you
the
very
Act is
much.
repealed if it does get to law.
Okay.
Now then, on that subject, obviously, life is pretty stressful. I think you'll agree. Getting stuck in the traffic pales into insignificance. The cost of living, red tape, all these things contribute to winding us up like coiled springs. No matter how you look at it, whatever career you're in, we could all do with a little help to reduce the pressures put on us every day. Hence, the complementary health business is booming, and continuing her quest for a better, healthier lifestyle, here's Bubba Mitchell.
Thanks, Steve. And I'm back here at the Natural Therapy Clinic in Windsor with Jan Trewartha, who's a massage therapist. And how did you actually get into massage, Jan?
Well, I originally trained as a state-registered nurse, and after 6 years I left nursing. I went travelling, and I was in New Zealand and did a beginner's massage course. And I took to it like a duck to water, little thinking it would become a career. And eventually, when I came back to England, I took my ITEC diploma and started up working in Windsor.
And what do you see as being the benefit of massage?
Massage is almost preventive medicine. It promotes stress release, it detoxifies the body, it helps cleanse the body from the toxins that we're constantly taking in the atmosphere, in our food. It provides pain relief, it keeps the muscles well toned up, and it stimulates and regulates all the functions of the body. So it is really something that you can use every couple of weeks or every month for everybody to maintain basically good health.
Right, now how do you actually approach a patient that comes to you? I mean, if, for example, they're complaining of a bad back or a neck ache, do you hone in straight on those points, or do you take the patient more as a whole?
Well, I do first check that there might not be anything structurally wrong, because they might need to see somebody like an osteopath or a chiropractor. But if it seems to be general muscular tension, I not only work on them, but I also try and find out what their job is and how they might be holding themselves wrongly at work, working on a computer full time, that might be feeding stress back into the necks and shoulders. A lot of people also hold emotional tension in their necks or the lower back or their shoulders, and I like to think that over the sessions, as I get to know them better, that maybe we can discuss this and talk about it, and they become more aware of their body's reaction to their daily work or their problems at home, and they start seeing how they get more of body awareness, I like to think.
Right, right.
Yes.
I see. And I know when I spoke to you before I came to see you on the telephone, you were telling me about deep work and deep massage work. Perhaps you can explain a little bit about what you mean by that.
Well, I do deep tissue massage. You can massage somebody in a very nice, relaxed way, just a superficial massage almost, which has its place as a relaxing, deep, de-stressing therapy, but also you can do deep tissue massage, which works on muscle knotting, postural holding, when people have been in the wrong posture, or, like I said, working at a computer for a long time. And although it won't go overnight, because sometimes these things have taken 20, 30 years to build up, then after a few sessions you'll start to see the deep therapy is working and learning to release the stress.
Now, Jan, I understand from what you said that you actually got introduced to massage through doing workshops, and now you're running workshops yourself, is that right?
That's right. I'm running them for total beginners who just want to learn how to use their hands and give a massage safely and effectively to their partners or friends, and they're very popular.
Ian, you've been our guinea pig. How do you feel?
Calm. It's nice. I was very nervous before I went in, but yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it.
Do you think you'll be booking in for another session when the camera crew aren't around?
Yeah, it was a bit funny with the camera crew around, yeah, but I think I probably will. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Oh, good. Great.
Lovely, thank you, Bubba. Now, there are more details about complementary health on the Moving Magazine service, absolutely free, 24 hours a day. However, if you'd like more details about the man in the fluffy pink towel, please write to us enclosing a plain brown envelope for the reply, and the address will be at the end of the programme. If you visited Windsor Town Centre recently, you'll have noticed that work on the pedestrianisation of Pescud Street is well underway. Drainage pipes are being laid along the length of the street towards the castle, and decisions will be taken soon on the siting of trees, bollards and other street furniture. Please be patient. The beautification of Windsor is underway, but it takes time. It will be worth the wait. Incidentally, I would like to say a very big thank you to the viewer who sent in this week's tasty treat. No, not the man in the pink towel. I'm talking, of course, about the apple and pecan pie in phyllo pastry, which you can see just there. I think you've got a picture of that? Marvellous. And it looks good enough to eat, doesn't it, chaps? Absolutely. Yes, I knew that was coming. Still to come, more on crime prevention, Alistair Corrie's version of the news, Sport on 7, Tony O'Rourke in Jodhpurs, and my special guest, Beresford Leroy from Surgical Spirit. You're watching Scene on 7 from WMtv.
For your holiday away from the crowds, our 9-bedroom villa has its own swimming pool, tennis court and billiards room, and is available for room or whole villa rental. Situated on the Portuguese west coast, 3 minutes from the beach, with 3 golf courses within 40 minutes drive. And of course, there's the renowned Portuguese food. For brochure or video, call Eaton Travel on 0753 671747.
Ideal Home Superstore.
Whatever you're looking for to furnish your house, look no further than the
Ideal Home Superstore.
Within our giant store on the Bath Road, Sydenham, the choice just has to be seen to be believed. With interest-free credit on some items, this is the ideal place. And don't forget the South East's biggest furniture sale begins on the 27th of December. 388 to 389 Bath Road, just off Junction 7. It's the ideal
Superstore.
This week's update on 7 was to have featured crime prevention, how we crack crime, how we can prevent crime. And to discuss this never-ending problem and help us all sleep a little easier in our beds, I will be joined definitely next week by a crime prevention officer here in the studio. Now, they were going to be here this week, but they're out preventing crime. They've got a crime prevention exhibition all over the area all this week. Under normal circumstances, publicity for our region would be welcome. But the national press featured an incident which shocked even the hard-bitten journalists of Fleet Street. Policewoman Gillian Pavitt was ambushed by 20 masked thugs. Another alarming fact about this attack, which occurred in Langley, is that some of these hooligans were about 12 years old. Gillian was on a bicycle patrol, as usual, when she was knocked to the ground, kicked, pelted with stones, and attacked with fence posts before managing to raise the alarm. Horrified colleagues have failed to find the culprits, and we support their appeal for information. If you know anyone involved in this senseless attack, you can telephone in confidence Inspector Kitson on 0753 506,000. That's 0753 506,000. And if you're one of the morons responsible, you should be ashamed of yourself. Please help if possible. We wish Gillian a speedy recovery and commend her on her quick return to duty. Here's how we can prevent crime.
Hello?
Is that Mr. Granger?
Yes, who's that?
You ever thought about investing in a car alarm?
What? It's 1 o'clock in the morning.
How about a handbrake lock?
No, look, who is this?
What about a deadlock then?
Whoever you are.
Just take a look in your driveway, mate. And by the way, love the car phone.
If you don't secure your car, you'll be going nowhere fast. Crime. Together we'll crack it.
and we will be having a crime prevention officer in the studio next week. Now, with tongue planted firmly in his cheek, Alistair Corrie with the WMTV news, or should I say not the WMTV news. From somewhere on the planet, I have no idea where, here comes Mr. Alistair Corrie with not the WMTV news.
Good evening. This is the news from WMTV. Please fasten your seatbelts. People fleeing the city of Los Angeles, County Durham, in United Nations trucks were shot at by Somalian National Guard members celebrating their team's win in the Five Nations qualifying round. As a result, the Territorial Army has been transferred to Arsenal for a record fee of 4 million Japanese yen. It is believed that this will reduce the deficit with Luxembourg by 50% over a 3-year period. No one was hurt. Local news. Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Smith have met over a cup of tea to discuss the plight of R. Kevin, who has allegedly been having secret meetings with that Sharon from next door. Events have caused fighting to break out over the garden wall. UN peace envoy Dr. Ian Paisley, speaking through an interpreter, said that neither side seemed willing to compromise. The case continues. International news. President John Clinton of Russia has announced measures to reduce the Brazilian rainforest, currently running at 1,000% per month. He proposes to cut an iguana in half, but make sure to take off all the fat before cooking at gas mark 5 for 100 years of solitude. Politics now. A row has erupted over the controversial film about the Guildford Four, entitled Gerry Adams' Family Values. In the film, a political exile by the name of Bill Clinton offers the PLO leader, Margaret Thatcher, a free ticket to the American football Super Bowl. A bunch of cowboys beat the Bills from the hills, but that is no way to refer to Chelsea Clinton's parents. Business news. The pound fell slightly against the kilo in heavy trading before intervention by the metric ton. This in turn took a battering against a stronger ounce due to a reduction in city centre pollution levels. Stock markets around the world fell, rose a bit, went down a little more, up about 10 points and down again before finally closing up 3 inches higher than a prize-winning turnip. This information is useless for investment purposes as it is at least half an hour out of date. A demographic explosion has just taken place in Central Europe. It is feared that the fallout will mean that there will be no pension funds available in the year 2035. The terrorist group, the Catholic Church, have claimed responsibility. And in the past few minutes, a spokesdevil for Mr. Robert Maxwell, speaking at a news conference, said, "See, it wasn't his fault after all." Science, and it was revealed earlier this century that 4 people die every second around the world of natural causes. The finance ministers of the G7 promised a full public inquiry. Music news. Steven Spielberg finally quit football following the recent collapse of his sugar empire. Mr. Alan Sugar was unavailable for comment. Travel news, and a water buffalo has jackknifed on the Hanger Lane gyratory system. Air traffic control have asked vultures to avoid the area until further notice. Sport now, and in a surprise move, the ex-England football manager Graham Taylor has been appointed chairman of the England Cricket Selection Committee, replacing Mr. Ted Dexter. The ousted chairman, Mr. Dexter, has in turn taken up his new post as chief of the Jockey Club. His first change to British horse racing was announced during his Oscar-winning acceptance speech earlier this week. He said that next year the Grand National is to be run underwater. Mr. Dexter explained to a cheering crowd that as water carriers sound better than air, it is hoped that the riders will hear the starter recalling them this time. Late news just in about a dawn raid from the Japanese in Pearl Harbor. We will bring you more details as they become available throughout this bulletin. And this just in, one of the Wombles has been reported missing from his home in southwest London. The police say they have a giraffe and a duck-billed platypus helping them with their inquiries. They have appealed to the public to avoid littering the local area until further notice. The relatives have been informed. That was the news from WMTV. I'm Alistair Corrie. From all of us here, have a peaceful weekend.
Thank you, Alistair. What colour is the sky on his planet? I've really got no idea. Time now for Sport on 7 at 30 minutes past the hour. Here's Andre Maradian. Hiya.
How you doing?
Good. You,
Jolly
go,
good.
go.
Hello once again, and a big welcome to the latest edition of Sport on 7. For those of you who tuned into last week's programme, answer me this. Did I, or did I not, ask for some good news and a good result from my own personal bête noire, Slough Town Rebels?
Yes, you did.
Well, did I get it? No, I didn't. The unthinkable has happened once again. Poor Les Briley and his sadly jinxed team slumped to another crushing defeat, this time at the hands of Welling United. A final score of 6-2 leaves Slough drawing inexorably closer to the bottom of the Vauxhall Conference League, with some of the Slough Town faithful now calling for Briley to resign. In the famous words of Graham Taylor, "Do I not like that?" This latest disaster means that they have now conceded 15 goals in their last 3 away games, and this is not leaving the supporters much to cheer about. I do not wish to dwell overlong on their misfortunes. I will leave that in the capable hands of the local press. One ray of hope, though, surely must be the signing from Nottingham Forest of 19-year-old central defender Dale Wright. Until now, Wright has been playing Forest reserves and should hopefully be ready to play in this week's fixture against Bromsgrove. A report in the Slough and Langley Observer this week from Bryce Martin states that Les Briley is promising more new faces for the Slough squad. He's looking firstly for strong central defenders to shore up the side, but as cash is at a premium, this might not be such an easy task. Once again, we'll be tracking the fortunes of the Rebels and their manager with interest. Elsewhere in football, Maidenhead United drew away to Leighton with a goal from last-minute substitute James Pritchard. Pritchard was brought on in the dying seconds of injury time to replace injured Dominic Gavin. 17-year-old Pritchard then scored the saving goal with his first ever touch of a ball in a senior game. I sincerely hope he had his drinking head attached firmly to his shoulders that night. Maidenhead will be in action once again this week away to Abingdon Town in Division 1. Other fixtures up and coming are Slough Town at home to Bromsgrove Rovers, Barking entertain Windsor and Eton in the Diodora League, and Burnham are away against Tunbridge AFC. World champion water skier and practising GP, Dr. Philippa Roberts, recently received a pleasant shot in the arm, if you'd excuse the pun, you know, doctor, shot in the arm. Oh, never mind. Dr. Roberts has just been given a cash injection, just more hilarious medical humour, of some £10,000 by the Foundation of Sport and the Arts. This will allow her to properly prepare for the World Championships next year, which will take place in Nice. Philippa usually trains at the Prince's Ski Club in Bedfont. Good news also for 3 members of Windsor, Slough and Eton Athletics Club, namely Mark Richardson, Marcia Richardson and Michelle Griffiths, all of whom have been selected to represent our green and pleasant land in the European Indoor Championships in Paris in March. I'm trying to get myself to Paris and have therefore been training hard, but 6th place in the annual invitation ferret rumbling competition is probably not enough. An interesting letter came into the offices of WMtv this week. Richard Poole from the Slough Arm Wrestling Society wrote to tell us of a very sad situation. Richard has been running the arm wrestling club for the last 10 years from what used to be a derelict building behind the White Horse pub. Over the years, he and his club members have turned the building from a wreck into a first-class gym, complete with shower and toilet facilities. He's had a complete rewire and a complete redecorate, and this has all been paid for by the members. The pub was sold to the Eindhoven Brewery some 7 years ago, who at the time stated that the club could remain where they were. But now they've decided that they would like to turn this room into a children's play area and have told the club to move, but will not reimburse the money the club have paid out for redecoration, a total of some £6,000. This is because there's never been a written agreement between the club and the pub regarding rent or finances. The club has some of the finest arm wrestlers in the world amongst its members and has amassed an excellent amount of publicity over the years indeed, and they feel that as they are being turfed out, they should at least get their money for all the work put in. Over to you, Eindhoven. We shall be following this story quite closely over the coming weeks and will let you know of any developments. 2 young sisters from Uxbridge are creating quite a stir in the world of badminton. Unseeded 14-year-old Laura Farquhar and her partner beat the #1 seeds to win the Middlesex under-15 mixed doubles title. She was also the runner-up in the girls' doubles. Her 13-year-old sister Claire is fast following in her footsteps after playing for the under-13 side. And finally, if there are any rugby players out there who have had enough of hurling themselves headlong into either thick mud or onto solid, ice-packed, snow-covered pitches, then this may be the answer for you. The Heathrow Airport Rugby Club is organising a tour to Florida and the Cayman Islands from October the 12th to the 28th. If anyone is interested in joining this trip, please contact Arthur Rabjohn on 0956 263 316. No, I'll say that again. 0956 263 616. 0956 263 616. That's better. Once again, I'm obviously in training. How about you, Steve?
Yep. Training now, yep. That's me. Training, lifting the pen, up, down. There we go. Should we go to watch? Can we not go and watch? We don't have to play rugby, do we?
No,
we could just
I think if you and I go and lead the drinking team or something,
absolutely,
it's a very good idea.
The arm bending.
That's the one,
at the
yeah,
bar,
particularly good at that.
come on then, I want to challenge you about this, because you reckon that Torvill and Dean, like we all did, Torvill and Dean were going to be a winning combination. They came third. Now, did they perform badly? Did they perform a legal move, or were they robbed?
I think in answer to that is no, no, and yes.
They didn't perform illegally?
They didn't perform illegally,
brilliant.
they performed superbly, and I think, as far as I'm concerned, and certainly in the eyes of everybody that I've spoken to or talked to, or both in fact,
who happen to be British,
who happen to be British, they won the competition. Whether they got the bronze or not, they were far and away the best. I'm not an expert on ice skating, but as far as I was concerned, they were
neither are the judges by the look of things.
Exactly, exactly.
Minor detail.
It's, I mean, further to this as well, the British are having such a rotten time with Wilf O'Reilly breaking a skate and not being allowed, and then being accused of actually breaking his skate.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
You're still glued to Lilyhammer, are you?
Still glued to Lilyhammer.
And when does it finish?
It finishes on Saturday the 27th. No, I beg your pardon, it finishes on the Sunday.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll come home with a bronze medal and a flag.
Well, I hope so.
What can you do? Thanks again, Andre.
Thanks.
Now then, where in our region can you go to eat fine food, drink excellent wine, meet Andrew Lloyd Webber, gate-crash a wedding and lose your shirt? A motorway service station? I don't think so. Windsor Racecourse is the answer, and Tony O'Rourke donned the correct attire, but did he wear riding boots? You bet.
This week we're at Royal Windsor Racecourse in Berkshire, checking out the sport of kings, and delving behind the scenes at a race meet and finding out just what it takes to make a good day out for all. Ronnie Began, you're a local lad running in today's races here at Royal Windsor Racecourse. What do you think of the course itself?
Well, it's a great track, a very friendly track, Windsor. To ride itself from a professional point of view, there's only two figure-8 tracks in the country. One is at Cartmel, up in the southeast of the country, and the other one's here at Windsor, of course. It actually has quite a long run-in. Basically, the track itself is flat and level, and you need a certain type of horse to win around here. A horse that travels really well, and a naturally what we call a free-running horse, John. But obviously you're a racing man yourself. Get your choppers on, John.
Not racing, a Sunday morning hack maybe, that's my lot. What sort of horse have you got today? Have you got the kind of horse for this course?
Well, this horse here has won on a couple of easy level tracks like this track. But unfortunately, John, he hasn't run for almost a year. And with the ground being so testing as it is today, I'd expect this horse would possibly need the run. If the ground was a little bit better and he had to have a run under his belt, you'd have to fancy him a little bit more.
Okay. Right, this is Julia and the Junior Club. Tell us what you do.
Well, we're just a new club at Windsor,
Yes.
showing everybody how, all about racing. We've got 12 members so far, which we're very pleased with, and today we've been going around the various film crews, been down the course to see the fences, we've been saddling boxes. We're about to go and see the scanning unit. We're just having a good old look round, and in between all that, watching all the races.
I came here 20 years ago. I got the march on my wife, actually, because she didn't come here. I've never been here before, and I've been here one summer night when we had a horse which was owned by the Savile Club, which I had a small bit in, and it came, I think, last. It was rather nice to actually win today.
Gail Brown, you're the Public Relations Officer here at the racecourse. Tell us about the corporate hospitality side of things.
We like to think that we can cover most aspects, really, whether people want a big party, a big race day here, for sort of 50 or 60 people, possibly more. Or we like to think we can also cater for perhaps 5 or 10 people. We can do brunches from £25 a head. or you can go right up and have a wedding, which we have here today.
And have you found that corporate hospitality has been taking off? Is it very popular?
Yes, it is. I think the last 2 years it went a little bit quiet because everyone was cutting back, but certainly now people are realising that it's really quite good value to have a day at the races. They can bring people for a good day's sport, a nice lunch, a good drink, and it's fun. It's a good area to do it.
What about special events? What big events are coming up in your calendar this year?
We have Monday evenings throughout the summer. We have racing here from sort of 6 o'clock until 9 o'clock, which is always very popular. People come down from London on the river and spend an evening here with us. We have one televised race day a year, that's actually in January. And March the 7th, we're having a big brunch here in our new pavilion, which is £25 a head for your entrance, lunch, etc. It should be a good day.
Well, so much for that. Still, I had a jolly nice day down here at Windsor Racecourse, and I hope I'll be able to come back again a bit later on in the season, maybe when the weather's a little bit better. But for now, it's time to go back to you, Steve.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Windsor Racecourse is a great place to visit if you'd like to, and for details of forthcoming meetings, please telephone either 0753 865 234 or 0753 864 726. The numbers on the moving magazine, as always. Now, I'm pleased to say that Surgical Spirit is the hit TV show which depicts life in and around the operating theatre. It's easy for me to say. If you haven't seen it already, well, you've missed a treat. And you've also missed my next guest, who is Beresford Leroy. Berry, how are you? Nice to welcome you to the studio.
Hi, Steve.
Amazing success story, Surgical Spirit.
Yeah, when I first started Surgical Spirit, I think it was about 6 years ago now, I was obviously pleased to get the part, and I thought, well, you know, I'll probably get 1 or 2 episodes and that'll be it. But now, 6 years on, we're still doing it, and it seems to be going from strength to strength.
It's great. How did you first get into acting?
I was living in Holland about 10 years ago, and I got involved with a drama group over there. And from there, I guess it built. I came back to England and still had an interest in acting, but I didn't really treat it seriously for another couple of years. And one thing led to another, a bit of amateur dramatics. I danced, in fact, professionally before I acted professionally. And then eventually I made the transition to acting, and it's all snowballed from there on.
Why do you think Surgical Spirit is such a success story?
Well, I think ever since I remember, hospital dramas, hospital sitcoms, you know, going back to Doctor in the House, have been successful. And Surgical Spirit seems to be just carrying on the trend. And I think the accuracy of Surgical Spirit is one of the things that keeps the public interested, especially hospital staff and medics. They seem to be very interested in the accuracy. They send letters in to say how pleased they are that we're getting it right. So, you know, we're very encouraged by that. On
that point, how difficult is it to accurately reflect what goes on in the operating theatre?
Well, you wouldn't think it would be that difficult with the medical advisors that are around, but I see, when I look at other hospital dramas or hospital comedy series, I see so many mistakes.
Elementary mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how many things they get wrong, but of course the general public wouldn't really notice. Perhaps it's difficult sometimes to make sure you get things right so that they'll work on television and be accurate as well, but obviously for us it seems to be pretty easy. I mean, we're getting it right.
Now, the reason that you notice in particular that there are elementary mistakes made, and the reason that probably one of the main contributions that you make to the programme is also that you're a medical advisor to this because you have another job.
Do I?
Apparently.
Oh, right.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Tell me more about your full-time occupation.
Well, in Surgical Spirit, I play a guy called Michael, who's an ODA, which is an operating department assistant. And I qualified some years ago as an ODA myself, and now I'm responsible for training ODAs, although they're known now as ODPs, which are operating department practitioners. So in my real life, I train ODPs in theatre, I lecture anaesthetic nurses and various members of the operating theatre team. So when I'm not acting, I'm actually working in a real hospital. So that's...
You say it's 6 years since it started?
6 years, yeah.
That's amazing. What plans are there for another series?
We hope it's doing very well. I'm sure it is. I've been getting a lot of personal feedback, and I know the rest of the cast have. So we hope we'll go again this year. It hasn't been confirmed yet, but we're all keeping our fingers firmly crossed.
As well as that, you're a resident of Windsor.
I am.
And you're always about, we see you about quite a lot. Do you get recognised in the street very often? What do people say to you when they meet you in the supermarket?
Well, my mother recognises me regularly.
Very good, very good.
It's funny, really, because I know a lot of people in Windsor anyway, so a lot of people are very supportive of the series. They come up and tell me how much they're enjoying it, how they're watching it. But I think the time that people recognise me, which is a little bit strange, is in the real hospital, in the real operating theatre where I generally work. And sometimes I see people come in, they look at me, and they just stare at me for a while. And I may go out of the room for a minute, I come back, and obviously they've said something to the nurse who's standing with them. And then they realise that, yeah, they do know me, they've recognised me from Surgical Spirit. And then the problem comes up where they think, well, okay, I recognise him from Surgical Spirit, and he's here now, but what's he doing here? If he's an actor, I don't want him anywhere near me. So that can be a bit of a problem. And then the big explanation comes up, and then they think, no, he's joking, you know, they're looking around for cameras.
And you're there in your professional capacity.
Yeah, right.
And they've got to take you seriously.
Absolutely, wearing exactly the same clothes that I do on television. So.
Must be quite a unique role, really. I mean, I can't think there's many people involved in, for example, police series or other hospital dramas that are on TV where they've got someone who's actually an actor and a consultant on the programme.
All the cast of the bill are actually real policemen, so I think...
Yeah, we've got I was going to... No, I better not. If it came to the crunch, you tread this sort of delicate path between working in operating theatres and advising people and lecturing and being an actor, a very fine actor, I might add. What would happen if Hollywood, Steven Spielberg, rang you and said, look, Barry, you've got to make a decision now. I want you to come and star in my next movie in Hollywood, or would you stay with the medical thing? Very difficult question, I know, but answer it as best you can.
I think I'd stay in the medical profession because there's no money there, and I can continue to help people. No, it's funny because a lot of people have asked me this for a number of years. I enjoy the dual life. I enjoy working in hospitals. I enjoy working in healthcare. I also enjoy acting. At the moment, and up until now, I've been able to join the two. I've been able to mix it.
Have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite difficult at times when I'm trying to make a series and I'm also trying to do my duties at the hospital and fulfill my contract. But I don't know is the answer. I intend to certainly stay in hospitals for at least the next 2 years because I'm doing a course which is going to last another 2 years and I don't want to give it up. So who knows? Who can tell?
Well, they're looking for a James Bond. I think you could do it. What do you think? Think you could do James Bond?
I think I'm too pale.
Lovely answer. It's a pleasure to see you always, and lovely to welcome you to the studio.
Thank you.
Cheers, Barry. Surgical Spirit is on Carlton every, which night of the week?
Friday night.
Friday night at
8:30.
8:30. Good. So if you're not watching us, watch that. It's brilliant. If you haven't seen it, watch it. And don't forget that, Barry, you must remember this too, Mother's Day is coming very soon. In fact, March the 13th is the day, Mothering Sunday. We'll be out and about getting your Mother's Day messages, but if you'd like to get in early or you're too shy to appear in front of the camera, a bit like Barry, you can drop us a line along with any other comments or suggestions for the show to our address, which is Scene on 7, WMTV, P.O. Box 7, Slough SL3 6ET. That's Slough SL3 6ET. That's about it for this week. It only remains for me to thank Catherine Zoe Child, Beresford Leroy from Surgical Spirit, all our presenters and the entire staff who work on this show and make it what it is. What is it? I don't know. Until next week, I'm Steve Brennan for Scene on 7 and WMTV. Bye for now.